The Foynes Flying Boat Museum is dedicated to recording that historic time from 1939 to 1945 when Foynes Ireland became the centre of the aviation world. The museum, which is housed in the original terminal building in Foynes, was originally opened in 1989 by Hollywood legend and museum patron Maureen O'Hara-Blair. Visitors are given a warm welcome in the reception area of the museum that has replica furnishings of the 1930s and 1940s in place. This entrance hall to the museum gives visitors an overview of the museum, of the flying boats that passed through it, and the history of the development of the museum and some of the key people involved, including Maureen O'Hara-Blair and Brendan O'Regan. You can also learn about the story of how Irish coffee was invented here in 1942 by chef Joe Sheridan. Our tour starts by transporting visitors back to the era in a 1930s styled cinema. Our movie, Atlantic Conquest, tells of the development of passenger travel across the North Atlantic, the pioneers and the airlines that flew. It deals with the impact of World War II through to the introduction of land planes, the start of the jet era and the ultimate demise of flying boats. Following the cinema, visitors enter the exhibition rooms, starting with the story of the brave pioneers of transatlantic travel. We learn of the first successful crossing in 1919 by Lieutenant Commander Reed of the US Navy, of Princess Lowenstein and of Alcock and Brown. The room would not be complete without the story of probably the most famous pioneer of them all, Charles Lindbergh. We also learn why flying boats became the preferred form of transport, primarily due to their safety in comparison to airships following the Hindenburg disaster, but also as most major cities are built by the sea or by large waterways. Foynes itself was chosen because of its location on the west coast, being a sheltered harbour on the River Shannon, and it had existing port facilities and bus and rail links. While Foynes operated as an airport, many famous people travelled through, including JFK, Humphrey Bogart, Ernest Hemingway and Gracie Fields, to name but a few. A display case dedicated to Captain Charles F. Blair, husband of Maureen O'Hara-Blair, includes his uniform, helmet and some major awards, including his Distinguished Flying Cross. Next, the visitor enters the radio and weather room with some original equipment on display. They include a large Marconi TA4 transmitter built to broadcast Morse code only, but was later adapted for voice. There is also an original teleprinter, a weather map from 1939 and the first ever weather barometer used by the Irish Met Service in Foynes. Visitors proceed to the War Room, which tells of Foynes during the years of World War II. A model of Foynes and the harbour help illustrate how flights, which would leave late at night for safety reasons, would have its runway lit up by flares which would only illuminate for a limited time. Inbound flights would arrive early in the morning and were met by boats to bring the passengers to the quayside. Photos, various newspaper articles and reports by the Irish Military Intelligence are also on display, telling many stories, including one of refugees who made their way through Foynes and onto America to start a new life. You also get a glimpse of life in Foynes during the war years through a series of pictures on display. In the departures area, a display case houses Pan Am artefacts, including an overnight bag, a hostess uniform, a Pan Am serviette and slippers. There is also information on one of the first Irish girls working in the airport, Lal Kirwan. Our pilot training area allows children, or those young at heart, to shake hands with a pilot, create artwork and fly in a cockpit made especially for children. We also have flight simulators where visitors can try their hand at flying a B-314 flying boat. Leaving the main building, visitors go out to board the world's only full-size Boeing 314 replica flying boat, the Yankee Clipper. This replica allows you to explore the entire plane, visiting the various passenger compartments, including a bridal suite, right through to the cockpit, all authentically replicated to original drawings and fully furnished. One of these passenger compartments is set up for the nighttime configuration, with the seats converted into bunk beds, essential for flights that could easily last 17 hours. This true-to-life representation gives the visitors a great insight to what passenger travel on one of these majestic flying boats was like. You also get to see the anchor and gear room, look in at the galley and visit the dining room where passengers would have formal table settings for meals. About 300 pounds of food would be loaded for a transatlantic flight, all prepared from scratch by 2 stewards. The food that was served on these flights was of the highest order. Shrimp cocktail and steak was the norm for dinner, with peach melba and petit four for dessert, accompanied by a choice of drinks. Going upstairs, you enter the cockpit of the B-314, where you can sit in the pilot's seat and relive the view the pilots would have looking down the River Shannon. You can sit at the navigator's desk, complete with charts, the engineer's desk, or the radio operator's desk with his Morse code radio. At the back of the cockpit, you also get to peek at the luggage storage area. All the equipment that would have been in an original B314 cockpit has all been replicated with great attention to detail for a full and authentic experience. Leaving the plane, you entered the treasure room where memorabilia and trinkets from the flying boats era are on display, including a pilot's cap, menus, baggage stickers and tags, aviation logs, postcards, scarves, a Pan Am life preserver and various other souvenirs. All of these original items have been and continue to be added to by donations from people around the world, some of which were accompanied by amusing stories which are told alongside the artifacts in the display cases. The main hall is a multi-purpose space that includes large models of a Catalina and a Sunderland flying boat. There are also various pictures and paintings of flying boats on display here. The hall also houses a part of the wreck of the only crash involving a passenger flying boat in Ireland, a Sunderland flying boat that crashed into Mount Brandon in County Kerry during heavy fog in 1943. The main hall is also home to a souvenir and coffee shop, where, amongst other things, visitors can enjoy an Irish coffee. The Irish coffee was invented in Foynes by chef Joe Sheridan, who worked at the airport restaurant that was run by Brendan O'Regan. One evening, when a flight had to return to Foynes due to bad weather, having reached halfway across the Atlantic, Joe thought that the damp and miserable passengers could do with a little something stronger that might warm them up, and so he added a drop of Irish whiskey to their coffees. On being asked by an American passenger if it was a Brazilian coffee he was using, Joe replied, "No, it's Irish coffee." The Irish coffee has since travelled the world and has become a favourite for many people and has been enjoyed by the rich and famous. The original Brendan O'Regan Airport restaurant and the original airport control tower are currently being reinstated. These two great additions will soon be open to the public and will further add to the enjoyable time visitors have at the museum. The control tower, once complete, will look straight down the main street of Foynes, and it will also give visitors a magnificent view of the River Shannon where flying boats would land and take off.